what does all this scribble mean? Well, this scribble means I've been doing some homework and I've figured out how to make this 4-door a 2-door. So you say, the man that knows everything. How? When you put it on paper, it seems quite easy. Well, I've illustrated here what exactly is going to happen. So, as you can see, these doors, front doors, are 120mm long. So that's almost a metre. And that's pretty big for a 4-door sedan of this type. And, well, it would be easy just to take a welder, weld it in the seam there, weld along the bottom, weld along the edges, take the door handle out and flush it off. That's easy. That's beyond easy. We don't want to do that. That's cheating almost. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take the pillar and move it back. About, as I say, 135 long. So, well, you say, well, now the door's going to be too short. Well, we cut it here and we add this bit here to the door. Easy. And of course, there is problems with follows. Windows, rubbers, door locking mechanisms, everything has to change, including the hinges. You have to swap them out for something a bit stronger. Now that's fairly easy. But when you think about it, it's actually not. Because, okay, you've thought about moving the pillar and the door skins, but what you have to think about is the pillars, the pillars actually moving, and how much of a structural thing that is. And, of course, the insides of the doors, the actual skins. You have to make those longer as well. You can't just extend the skin and pray that it's going to work. So, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take 135 out of the middle of those rear doors and add it to these front doors. Now that should work. And in fact, it's going to work. Do you know why? Because I'm the man who knows everything. So if you've never taken a door off a car, there's some things you have to do before you undo the bolts. Just like I did. You have to first pull the wiring all the way back through into the door. Or into the chassis. Whatever floats your boat. But it's much easier to pull it back into the door. So, what's the next thing? Well, as I said, if you've never done a door, this here is going to be your problem. Because you're just going to go, alright, I've pulled the wires through, I've pulled the bolts off, just like I just did. But, never forget about this. Just because most of this car has been stripped apart, these doors have not. Just the panels. So, how do you do it? Well, with a big hammer. Easy. See? Knock out the pin. Just take 1, 2, 3 bolts out. If the car only has 4, just take 2 out. Why? Because it will hold the door there, but you won't have to fight those 2 bolts. All you have to do is grab your little impact, set it on reverse, and take the bolts out. Another handy thing is if you do it the way I've just done it, as you can see, the door is still on the car. But the only thing holding it on is that latch. So you've got to be careful of that. So, all I'm going to do is grab the door at the front, like so. You grab the door at the handle, and pull it off. Actually, these doors are pretty light. So, it is now going to give us access to the pillar. And the bolts for the rear door. Now, same process applies. Pull the wires through, undo a couple of bolts, take off the pin and lift it off. So, I'm going to crack on with that. And, yeah. So here we have the main offender. The thing that is holding up us from being pillarless. Well, half pillar. Much like a Laurel or, as mentioned, Charger. We have to take this bit off here. So we're going to have to find a new way to put structure from here to here. We could just move this back. And that's exactly what we're doing. But you see, on a Charger back here, there is no pillar. Other cars do have them, but this one will not. So there's another bit of structural engineering that has to go on behind the scenes. So we'll probably run runners through the roof and back down, and probably something under the floor, just like a convertible. They have extra strength in the floor to stop them from flexing. So that's how we're going to do that here. Plus, with another little surprise under the car, we're still going to have to do that. So the chassis will come out stronger, it'll still have a roof, and for what the car is being built for, will be perfect. So, you say to yourself, still, why? This seems like a lot of effort for not much reward. Oh, if you've ever worked on a car, you know, well, you're a glutton for punishment. You love it. There's no point in not doing it, because you sit there and you scratch your head for hours and hours and hours going, what if I just do it? Well, that's what we're doing. We're just going to do it. So, once again, keep watching. So, here we have, of course, the bottom of the pillar. It's about 400 mils long. What I'm going to show you is, if you've never done this sort of work before, you may not know this, but you don't just want to grab the grinder and cut. Why? Because there's multiple layers, and they all have to come off without being damaged. Now, cutting, yeah, that seems like a good idea, but when you cut it, you also bring all the other layers away, and that can lead to problems. So what we're going to do is de-stitch the outside, and of course, then the inside. And how do you do that? Well, if you're a panel beater or a car restorer or genuinely work with metal, you know how to de-spot everything. But for the people who don't know, we're going to show you. Now, there is proper drill bits you can do this with. I've seen them, and they're very expensive. And this is sort of a budget build. I have a lot of money in the car, but not much. So I don't believe there's any point in buying fancy tools for a job like this. A, it's never going to be street legal. B, it's just for fun. So why spend a ton of money on expensive tools and expensive stuff? Well, if you're like me, you spend the money on expensive tools and expensive stuff because you do this quite often. But just for you guys at home, this is about a 7.5 mil drill bit, and that will take care of your spot welds. But first, you just got to clean all the gunk off, so the seam sealer and the paint, and we'll clean that all off. Then we'll come and we'll de-stitch this all. Now we're going to have to de-stitch it from here and from the other side, because it's 3 layers thick. So make if you want, but you can cut it if you want, but this will probably make the job a lot easier if you just de-stitch it. Although longer, easier. And when it comes to welding, you don't have to put big long welds. All you have to do is tiny circles. And from what I know, if you don't have to drill the spot weld, if you're remaking this part, you can get a spot welder, but they're expensive. And once again, I don't really have that sort of money to throw at this project. So we're just going to drill the spot welds out, remove it, move it back, clean up this area here where it's going to land, and then put it on top and weld small circles inside the holes we drilled to recreate a spot weld. Pretty easy, but once again, if you don't know, now you know. I will be showing you how to do this. It's just going to take a while because I have like 100 spot welds to drill now. So let's have a look at what is under the paint. And for that, we're going to use this disc. If you've never seen one of these, well, actually a lot of people haven't. They're fairly good at stripping paint. Well, this one actually is very good. It's still holding shape. I've used it 2 or 3 times, but it's still holding shape. Now you could use a flat disc or even a soft disc or flat disc, depending who you are and where you're from. You know, the ones with the rubber backing and pretty much just a big circle of sandpaper. So this is what we're using to strip everything. They're much more effective, and when there is rust, they remove the rust, but they don't remove metal. So once again, a sanding disc and a flat disc is going to use its iron oxide and aluminium oxide bits, or salt, or sand, depending how old the sandpaper is and where you brought it from. We'll remove all of that. But this is going to do the job. So always remember to wear safety gear, like earmuffs, like safety glasses. Seriously, it'll save you a very expensive trip to the doctors. And safety boots, but these will do. We're not cutting anything yet, we're not getting dangerous, and these are a lot safer than the old wire wheel. Although they do flick bits, they're less liable to pierce your skin, just burn it. So, better crack on. So, as you can probably see, or start to see, is these spot welds here. These are the things we're going to be drilling. Right where my finger is a little spot weld. I think you can just see it below this bog line here. Ooh, get the camera in place. See this bit of bog line? Just above it, there are spot welds all along here. Now, this is going to take some time to reveal them all. So, once I finish revealing them, we'll start drilling. So, instead of grinding, there is another easy way to see where a spot weld is. It is usually a low spot, like right here where my finger is. You can actually see where the paint did not all the way come off. But as you can see, that grinder, it doesn't take too much metal off. It just takes the paint off, which in this case is really, really good. So you're thinking, well, now you've got to drill those spot welds, and they're a low point. But the easiest way to do it, now you've found your spot weld, is find the center of it and punch it, so your drill has something to follow. And if you don't do this, it gets ugly real fast. See? Now we've punched it, we can drill it. So, to start off with, we're going to start with a reasonably small drill bit. Well, it's not that small, but it's reasonably small. Why? Because when you're drilling, if you know anything about drilling, it's easier to step it up than go full bore. So say we're using, I don't know, maybe a 5mm drill bit now, and then we'll step it up bigger. In an ideal world, you'd want to go from something like 1.5mm all the way up to 7.5. But that's not going to happen because that's expensive. Well, it would require me to buy a new drill bit set, and I'm not a fan of that. So, here we go. Well, that's no good. As you can see, the drill bit is very blunt and not made for metal. So now we've got pretty much a good starting point. I'll show you what you have to do next. You'll then step your drill bit up to about this size. Quite big. 7.5 in diameter. Now this drill bit is, can you see, not too great. And I'm pretty sure it's blunt, but we're going to use it anyway. So now we should start seeing where it's splitting, which we can if we take a closer look. If you can see it, how when you're drilling, that's the first layer, and that little black line is the second layer, and that's center. So that means we're close, but we're not, no cigar. So this is going to take some extra, a little bit extra to get out. But I'm going to have to do every other spot weld before I can move on to the next step of removing this pillar. So, see you in about 2 days. So now we're almost free by the looks of things. So regular cold chisel, good old ball peen, and we'll have a go at it. And look at that, we're free. So now this whole bottom section is free. So now we're just going to have to take care of the back side of most of these welds to get the bottom section of the pillar free. So now we have the bottom unstitched on the outside. Instead of going back and forth and drilling the inside in here and then coming back and doing all this top stuff, we might as well, while we're here, do the outside on where we're going to cut and what we're going to do. It only makes sense because there's no point in going back and forth and back and forth. That creates problems because you suddenly forget where you're up to and what you're doing. So this black line about here lines up fairly relatively to the window line. So the only real way to check this is to measure this. We're going to grab a tape measure, go from the bottom of the pillar, where the bottom of the door would usually rest, and measure up to about 595. So you say, we'll just cut it. Well, once I said, we're going to have to figure out where the actual window line is. Because this is all cool, assuming that this black here is where it ends. But no, I'm not too sure. So let's go have a check. So now we're back with the door, we can actually see where the window line is. But I don't know if you've noticed it yet, it takes a little bit to notice, but the actual door line, it sinks here. It does a slight curve, so we can't take that bit for reference. We're going to have to take the back. When you look at the back door, we'll get to that in a minute, it kind of has a little bit of rack on it. So we're just going to use this line here. Well, the line inside anyway. So all going well, we should be able to get up to, we say 590 something, and it's about that. But what we really need to know is actually from the inside, not the outside. Although you can measure from the outside, it'll look good, but it may not fit. So, put this along like that. Okay. We've got this, once again, black line. So we're going to measure from the bottom of the door to the black line. Now, you're going to say, well, the door's curved. And I agree. I just don't care. So we're going to measure with the tape measure, because you can give a tape measure. Because the pillar, once again, is also curved. And we're landing in about the same spot. So it's all good to go. So, as you can see, we've just made our first cut into the pillar. And the thing I was saying about giving yourself enough space, I mean, we've gotten probably a bit too close to the edge there, but it'll be all remade and all capped off and all put back together a bit stronger than this. As you can see, this is no good, you know. It's very weak, I guess you'd say. And this is where your strength is. So why do they build it that way? Who knows? When you're in an accident, it's not a great situation. Because of course, the only structure is that. The floor, although having its swages and bumps and bits and little bits of support, it doesn't hold up to impact properly. So that's another thing we got to sort, is chassis stiffness. You see, this has worked beautifully because, well, you can see daylight through there. If that wasn't in place, this would have closed up, this whole gap. So this is why you do this. Just a headphone warning, it's going to be loud. So, free. Now, the roof is still solid, the is still wiggly, but what was this for? Well, it was for the seatbelt mounts, so don't worry about it. As you can see, I've cut it clean off, so as I said, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But as you can see, it's very thin steel, and in fact, that's mostly burr. As you can see on this side, it's very thin steel, and it's not complicated. I mean, you know, that's what the inside of a door pillar looks like. It's just that. That's all you see. That's all you get. And therefore, it's already unsafe as it is. So, doing this, not a big problem. So now, with a little bit of fiddling and figuring out, we've come to the conclusion to move the pillar this far back, which isn't the original 315mm. The only reason why it wouldn't work is because of this plate here. We'd have to completely rebuild the whole end of the pillar. And I'm not a real fan of that, so what we're going to do is just move it about 240mm back. So from the original line, it's only, you know, that much. So I think it's actually a little more than 240mm, but this is where it was going to be. But if we look down, it straight lands on this piece here. Now, this we're going to need. We're going to need this so we can flush the door up. Of course, we take all the rubbers off, but we'll flush the door up and weld it to here with, you know, a couple of plates and stuff, just to make it a bit stronger instead of just a manky old seam weld. We'll just plug weld stuff and make it look like it may have come that way. So, as I said, the pillar's 390 long, and the only place it was going to fit is there, just before that little up for the rear door. And that makes things easier. So, as I said, it's only about 200mm back. So what we're going to have to do is, of course, trim either one or two, or maybe all of this off and rebuild it back. Or just trim the bottom of the pillar there. Now that's handy dandy in theory, but we'll see how it goes. Once again, this is all just based off some scribbles on a couple of doors. what I'm doing now is just fine-tuning every little part to make sure everything fits up nice and snug. Now we're getting there, but as you can see, there's just a little gap there. Now I don't know if that's due to the warpage we've made with the actual panel or the car. Now, if we put it back to where it used to belong, you can see it's kind of alright. But when you move it back, of course, it doesn't fit. So we're just going to give it a couple of taps and a couple of cuts and a couple of drills, and we're going to just secure it, temporarily tack it in place, and then we're going to take the angle of the pillar on the other side of the car and match it, so when we come to put the door back on, we don't have to worry about it sticking out too much like this or too in like this. So now, as you can see, we've just tacked it in just so enough that it's pretty much how it was before. You know, no wiggling anymore. Well, very little that you guys can see anyway. So all we've done is tacked these two holes here, these two holes here, and a spot in the back, just to keep it solid. So now, as I was saying, the next process is to make sure our tacks were good and we're good here. What we're going to do is we're going to take a level and we're going to put it either on the flattest spot. So as you can see, we don't really have a flat spot to level off. So we're going to have to use the back of the pillar, where it's more flat. Well, not really. So it's not very, well, level, as you can see. So we obviously can't use a level because, well, it's not going to give us a very good answer. We'll just check the other side, see if we get the same sort of results. And, well, you guessed it, we get the same results. So the top one needs to be in those lines there, and the middle one needs to be right up the top, and the bottom one needs to be the same as the top one. So I go check that on that side, and from what I saw, we should be alright. And if we are, we continue welding. If not, well, we do it all again. So look at that, right on the money. So then we shouldn't have any problems. So now we have everything in place. All we're going to do is now come from the back here with another piece of steel and just tack it in. As I was saying, we know this is in the correct spot. We know how far back it is. And this is pretty much the end of this part. We're just going to make it a quick panel up here and that's done. Then we'll move on to, of course, capping the pillar and getting a bit more strength into it. But then we have to do, of course, the rear section. And, well, there's still the big missing piece, the actual window. Well, the door. And also, of course, that monstrosity still has to come off. So, there we have it. Pillar's now moved, it's in, it's solid, and we've managed to replace everything all the way back to here. Now, of course, the next step in the process, which will be the next episode, we'll actually be making the doors and the actual rear piece, or the rest of the quarter, I guess. So keep your eye out for that, and remember, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff.